All right, we finally made it. The political ecology of the coronavirus. Just a first hack at it. All right, and I want to thank a few people first for sharing their data and their software. First of all, Boehner and Conrad from University of Hamburg for their lovely Saga software, which helped collate and combine all this data. And where'd the data come from? NYC Open Data. Ryan Rolla, sorry if I mispronounced your name. The GeoDOS software from Luke Anselin and his team, wherever they are. I've got Rolla twice there because I wouldn't have been able to do the political side without it. NYC Health for sharing their zip level corona data, and I think we already thanked the Saga people, where we'll do the next version of what we're going to do. So here we are in Saga, and I've put all the data together from these places, which I will make available. This is the last one. This has everything combined. But here we are. We've got Corona. It's in a bunch of zip codes or neighborhoods in New York City. And yeah, there are some little ones down here in some of the islands that I was unable to collate data for, so they don't show up. But here we are. We have a very spatially distributed and distinct locations for the coronavirus. But there's a whole lot of things going on in New York City, and I'm going to try to say busing. Oops. Let's get to maps. Let's go ahead and add the things that might. Hospitals. Well, there are hospitals. There are quite a few hospitals in New York, and we look to see if maybe it was spreading out from hospitals, nurses, and doctors going home and spreading it in their neighborhoods, or maybe they didn't live nearby, and doesn't really seem to be any relationship to where their hospitals are. Well, of course, New York City Housing Authority gets blamed for a whole lot of stuff, so let's go ahead and see if those locations, well, maybe we see some Housing Authority. It does seem like there's a few more Housing Authority locations in there, so it could be at subways. It's coming in on the subways. Could be, but there's kind of subways everywhere, so we don't see the subways much in the way of subways or bus stops in the very, very low corona area. So maybe public transportation has something to do with it. Well, the railroad, go along Long Island Railroad, it does hit a few more places, but we sort of have this whole transportation picture of what's going on, and that's creating express bus stops aren't enough expresses, so you probably won't even see these pop up. And finally, amongst the things that people might gather around or gather towards that might lead to the spread of corona, it's also where they go crap their dogs, live trees. It's going to take a minute because there are a lot of trees in New York. Boom. So yeah, there are a lot of trees, and somebody went around with GPSs and took all the species and stuff like that. Thank you. Thank you, New York. But there are a lot of trees in most places, and so we are going to look at maybe that trees as an aggregator of people had an impact. We have nursing homes, and I think that's all that I decided to look at. There are quite a few other things that you could choose to look at. I also have the voting behavior for the 2016 primary. I would have used the 2016 general election, but that doesn't allow us to sort of pull the Bernie bros out because they weren't there. So no offense, but maybe being a Bernie bro leads to greater social distancing. When you see the Bernie t-shirt on, you don't want to talk politics, you just walk away. Keeps that 6-foot distance there. Go Bernie 2024. All right, so this is what we did, and then I used the lovely geoprocessing tools here in terms of shapes, and this is nice. You can go through and you can count your points in your polygon. You can go to tables and you can join attributes from other tables. You can go to the tools over here and look up spatial join, and so you can do some spatial joins to do polygon attribute averaging. Saga is really great for doing this. I wouldn't say it's up there with ArcGIS. In some ways it's better, but it's way better because it's free. and it's really quite fast. It doesn't crash very often. So I'm going to bounce out of here and move over to another piece of software where we're going to do the rest of this analysis. So we installed and downloaded downloaded and installed in that order the lovely GeoDAW software, which is where we're going to do some visualization and some analysis. You can get the shapefile that has compiled all of those lovely data sets that I showed you, including the spatial overlays for ROLA's 2016 precinct level database, which has kindly shared the New York data for. It's got the whole state. I pulled out what was necessary to do the city. All right, so we're going to look at a couple of different areas. So the first thing I did was, let me close here, just so you know how to do this start to finish. So I went and I opened up the NYC zip polygon shapes. File, you might have to click File and Open. And that's going to blink at me a little bit. And there we go. So we can see if this gives us similar things. We're going to go to Explore, and we're going to, we're going to go to Map. We'll do a quantile map. We'll do octiles, and we'll select the Corona 516. We're so used to looking at that we probably should be able to see it. And so there we see the same sort of blocks we did, Corona and Elmhurst up in here. And this is, although a different set of colors, letting me know that I think this is correct. We could also very quickly go to a map, create another map. We'll do another octile map, and we'll go down and we'll look at the percent. We're going to go down to average Sanders. The ones that have the numbers in, or the averages and the sums in front of them, these are the ones that were averaged over polygons versus the other ones which were averaged over points. It gives slightly different numbers. Sorry, modified open unit area people, it's trouble. All right, so we're going to say OK, and we look at our Sanders voters. We pull that over, and it looks like, well, it looks like we have lots of Sanders voters where there's not a whole lot of Corona going on. So we think that's probably negative. All right, so we think there's probably a negative association there. And we can do that here. We're going to do our X, average Sanders. And then we're going to go down here and find our Corona 516. And we're going to say OK. And sure enough, it's down. We have a 0, 0 in there, which we probably want to go take out. It's probably one of these very small precincts that's a building or something like that, and or a couple of buildings, or a shipping yard or something that has very few people living there. But for right now, we're going to continue doing this. Before we do data clear up, and it's negative, p-value is not significant, so by itself the Bernie Bros does not lead to negative, but it looks pretty negative here if we took that 0, 0 out, which, you know, we would probably do in a more thorough analysis. Take that one step further. We can go ahead and look at, here we're going to start off, and we're going to start with the Corona at the top, and we're going to do the political here first. Put in Clinton, Sanders, Cruz, and Trump. And then I'm going to look at my scatter plot matrix, make it a little bigger so I can see the numbers there. And I'm going to start off with my Corona and go across. And it turns out that we look at this, Clinton was up but not significant, Sanders down but not significant. Cruz was up and significant. That might have something to do with a couple of Hispanic neighborhoods pulling it up. And then Trump, there's no relationship whatsoever. So we can see these that in the political leanings have a little bit but not a lot to do with the spread of the corona in this bivariate relationship. We'll look at these in a multivariate relationship in a little bit, but we're going to do that again. But now we're going to look at a few other things. Let's look at the transportation. And again, we're going to start off with the corona, and then we're going to do buses, LIR, New York subways. Did I miss anything? All right, I think I'm good there. So again, here's another part of the political ecology, and we look at corona and we see, okay, so a little bit of bust, but it might be an outlier. We look at the LIR, no relationship. Subways, yeah, there's a little bit of an upward trend and significant. So maybe there are some really bad subway stops, but in general, it looks like the whole group there shifts up. So we might have a transportation related in sort of the transportation part of our political ecology. Let's step over here and then look at a few other aggregating features. We start off with corona again. We're going to do trees, stairways, nursing homes, and come over here and have a look at that. All right, so we start off with corona again, and it's very strong relationship with trees. So maybe parks or people hanging out near trees or walking their dogs and talking while the dogs are dumping. Maybe that's significant. We also see stair halls being significant. People hang out in stairways and the NYCHA. So the more stairways you have, stairways and hallways to hang out in, those are transfer areas for corona, at least theoretically. And we do see a positive and significant relationship there. We also do see with the number of nursing homes and nursing beds, those have been clearly identified as outbreak areas. So this is starting to play out. The data is starting to play out sort of along the ways of what we've seen in the news. And then we're going to look at a few different communities. We're going to put the corona in there again. We're going to put median age because we think it's important. We're going to put the percent African American. We're going to put the percent Chinese. That has been thrown out there. And then the percent Hispanic. These have been thrown out there as factors that highly affect the spread of this or have been associated with it, whether they affect the spread of it or not. Maybe lucky, unlucky. But that's it. So we're tossing that out there. And we're going to go over and look at this. And sure enough, what we saw in the news was truly there. We have this one outlier here where we have a zip code which is a bunch of old people, so we see that potentially spurious or at least outlier driven. As the median age goes up, this comes down and it's significant. We see that outlier. We'll probably have to fix that. So we should be suspicious of adding median age to our regressions due to that potential big outlier effect. We see the percent African American, we see a slight upward. We see the percent Chinese a slight downward, but not significant. And with the percent Hispanic, we see an upward and significant. But again, these are all bivariate. What would happen if we put them all together in a single equation? We're going to stop right now